Well, today is also International Joke Day. I did not know that.
Oh, do you want to share a joke?
Well, first person in the office right out of the gate today. Did you know it's International Joke Day?
Was it Dolores?
No.
Okay.
No. Somebody else.
Oh, no. So
And no, I had no idea that it was International Joke Day. So we had a fun time just doing International Joke Day.
I was going to say, that's right up your alley.
Well, but and then you got to call them up on the spot. And so, yeah, but all day long, some people are good at it and some people are not. But
so if you tell a joke, did they have to tell a joke?
well, theoretically, I didn't want to tell any jokes. I just was saying, hey, do you have your own joke? It's International Joke Day.
Oh, that was smart. Once you knew, you could ask them instead of them asking you.
100%.
Yeah.
And so Dolores, I don't know, Dolores and I always chuckle. And then I get way behind schedule.
Did Dolores have a joke?
No.
Okay.
No, she just likes being funny. All right, hey, good day and welcome to another exciting episode of Living Well Together.
Big life in a small town.
Here we go.
Me and you today, babe.
It's International Joke Day. Did you know?
I just learned that it was International Joke Day.
I learned this morning. I didn't know. It's also Bison Month.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Somehow you celebrate bison this month. I don't have any.
B-I-Z-E-N?
Bison, the animal, buffalo.
I thought it was a whole new word.
Yeah, bison. Bison.
Okay. I didn't even know they had their own month.
I didn't either.
That is wild.
Jen told me this morning it's Bison Month.
Okay. So
I love a good buffalo dip. I mean, that's like all I know about bison stuff.
Well, you like a bison steak.
Yeah.
We've been to several restaurants. The new one, Bistecca, wasn't that a bison steak? Or
that was elk.
Elk.
Yeah, that was elk.
Okay.
A
little different.
On a wood fire. Grill. Yeah, it was delicious.
Yeah, it was.
Anyway, it's also, talking about meat, it's also, our topic today is men's health.
Men's health.
Men's health. Because usually we try to not talk about health. It's kind of
No, we decided that we were going to talk about health today.
Well, we decided for this episode, yes, it's going to be purely that. But frequently we work with like guests and we try to dodge the whole health conversation because we talk about health all the time and it's like, take a break.
Right.
But today it's men's health. That's our topic du jour.
Yeah.
And we are horrible at it. Let's just be honest, fellas. We don't like talking about health. We don't like needing help. We don't like asking for help. We don't like seeking it out. And it's one of the biggest challenges that we see in the office on the regular.
Men?
Probably, yeah. Well, by the time they get to us, usually they're already miserable and they've usually already been somewhere else. And frequently, they think that pain is the issue. Like they've got some kind of thing going on and they don't understand it and it won't go away. And they've tried 7 other things. And so that sometimes we're the last resort. Or the woman in their life says, make this call or I'll make it for you. And then they come in begrudgingly sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's a thing for guys. We don't, we're not big, help seekers.
But what do you think that is? Is it ego?
Pride, yeah.
Yeah.
Sin. I mean, if you want to just cut it right down to the chain,
Adam.
It all comes back to sin.
So when men come in and what are some of the symptoms that they experience that brings them in? Like, is it usually
pain's a
just
big
pain?
driver.
Okay.
Pain's a motivator. And everybody thinks pain is the issue. It's never the issue, by the way. No. Pain is always the signal of an issue. In fact, it's usually not the first signal. It's almost always the last signal that the body will give you to say, hey, something is not right. And if you're going to ignore sleeplessness, if you're going to ignore low libido, if you're going to ignore, stress and constipation, let me give you something that you can't ignore called pain.
Yeah.
And that's the body's signal for saying, hey, like there's a tornado in the neighborhood. You got to kind of start paying attention. So that's usually when we see them. And the fun thing for us is we measure everything anyway. So the neurological clues are always measurable. So we always start with measurement because I don't get to feel what you're feeling, whether it's, that long list of stuff or whether it's just something small.
Right.
So measurement is king. And then you're just looking to reference normal.
And when you do your measurements on the SEMG, all of those nerves relate to an organ or a gland. And so is that really helpful for the patient?
The nerve that's registering pain, if you look at a nerve like a piece of cable, that cable's made up of 9 or 10 different wires individually, and then it's wrapped like a cable. only one or two of the wires in the cable actually transmit pain information anyway. So if I put pressure on the nerve up here, but the pain wire is down here, I can change the function of the nerve significantly within a very short amount of time and not cause any discomfort. So by the time there is discomfort, it's usually been cooking for a minute. But along the way, the pressure on that nerve is also sickening that nerve. It creates chemical changes in the nerve that actually drip down the course of the nerve and deposit somewhere, which causes inflammation and then eventually discomfort. But it is also the chemical event that rots the bones and degrades the tissue around them, called arthritis. So anything inflammatory is going to have a component of degradation of the tissue. Right.
Yeah.
It's frustrating to watch. I mean, we've been led to believe so many things about health and well-being that aren't true. And you women, frankly, to be true, are usually better at managing it than we are.
Yeah, because you guys want to kind of shove it down and ignore it.
We don't like asking for directions when we're kind of lost. We're not.
In your car.
We don't want help. Don't help me. I don't need your help. Let me go to my cave. I'll just lay there until it goes away or clears up. But it's a horrible way to manage health and well-being, and it shortens your life.
Right.
These are all things that impact not only how long you live, but how well you live. So the goal is to just clear it. Let's get rid of why it's happening. And then the body's engineered to go back to running smarter and healing better and doing the things it's supposed to be doing from the inside out with way less discomfort.
Right.
It's not always supposed to feel good, by the way.
If it always felt good, you wouldn't know what those root causes, what else was happening with your body. Like there's always some type of metabolic function that doesn't always have those clues and those signals.
No. And you'll, like the guy who's having a heart attack today, so he'll tell you he felt fine yesterday.
Yeah.
You don't get a heart attack overnight, but you have a heart attack in the moment because of changes that have been manifesting over the course of time that you may ignore. It might be shortness of breath when you go up a flight of stairs. It may be a little bit of chest pain that feels like maybe, I was working in the yard. And, so we'll sometimes just ignore some of the clues. And then by the time we're having a crisis event, it's already well late stage. So I don't know. We're not very good at it. We just need to get better at it. And
so one of the things, you tease about this a lot, but like there's only a couple of things that are at the forefront of your mind almost every day. Do you want to share?
All the basics.
That's very
all
vague.
The basics.
Okay.
Well, food, shelter. Am I eating? Am I drinking? Sex is usually in there somewhere, like the part of the brain.
Wait a minute. Let's put them in order. And be honest.
That's completely backwards. Sex at the top.
Sex is
then I got to
top.
have something to eat
then
and drink,
food.
and oxygen is in there somewhere.
Oxygen is after sex.
Yeah.
I just want you to be real with our audience because this is what you say to me at home.
Well, a healthy lifestyle includes lots of things.
Yeah.
And the reality is that the level of stress that most men find themselves under suppresses all that stuff.
Correct.
And so the stress response, and we've talked about this on other episodes, the stress response is very predictable. If there was a bear chasing you through the woods, I've used this example 1,000 times.
Right.
If there was a bear chasing you, or if your life was in danger in some way, lots of things change. Cardiovascular function changes. Digestive function changes. Immune system is suppressed. Sex organs, that becomes a very low priority in a dangerous situation. So libido is suppressed. Muscles are activated. Blood sugar is elevated. Cholesterol is elevated. There's some very predictable physiology changes when a body is placed under a stressful situation. And it's meant to be a game changer, a lifesaver. If
in that moment.
Right. It's not meant to be a lifestyle.
Right.
So when the nerve system gets locked into that fight or flight pattern, all that stuff degrades the system. And that's why heart disease is the leading cause of death in this country. And that's why cancer is a close number 2. If you leave the immune system chronically suppressed, your ability to manage cancer cells goes down immensely.
Right.
And so, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the loss of libido is only one of the body's SOS signals.
100% true.
Because it's related to stress and poor nutrition and poor lifestyle choices.
But that is the body's way of saying, I need to conserve energy to fight this bear. right?
Because,
like you don't have time for doing it.
Yeah.
You don't have time for running. You're in a crisis-oriented mode. So, the loss of libido. That goes both ways. That's on the male and the female side of the scale.
Correct, but we're talking about men today.
Those changes take place in both sexes. And that's why when the household's out of sync and your energy is not good or my energy is not good, or if you're operating at an 8 and I'm operating at a 4 out of 10, then there's that disharmony in the household, both mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So that begins to affect all the aspects of life.
Right.
And chronic pain becomes kind of part of the issue that drives a lot of human behavior. But when you're feeling miserable, it's hard to be nice. It's hard to be dependable. It's hard to show up as the best version of yourself. And all that really just revolves around taking better care of a very predictably orchestrated situation.
Right. Well, I feel like because of the advertisements on TV and just the talk about testosterone, low T, and how that's the key to all of this.
Right.
But it's not just the key. And testosterone doesn't have just something to do with how well you have sex or if you have sex. It has to do with your metabolic performance and strength.
It has to do with bone growth. It has to do with muscle function. It has to do with strength and stamina and stability. But testosterone is usually not the issue.
Right. Even though that's what we hear that it is.
Oh, well, yeah. So if you believe your TV, you could have low T. Yeah. And then, you take these libido enhancing drugs and wonder, why things aren't going the way you think they should go.
But it can be essential. I mean, it can, if the only way to know is to test.
Well, blood doesn't lie.
Right. And
you can do blood work
if there's a
things.
concern, we do have a male comprehensive health panel that can be done. And it has like 88 labs that it comes back with. I mean, it is very comcomprehensive.
Yeah.
So if you're concerned about that, that's an easy way to find out if that's what it is.
Yes.
If it comes back and the testosterone is completely normal, then you can start digging deeper. If they've already been adjusted and they're still struggling, it's like, okay, well, let's take a deeper look at this.
Right on. And chemistry, like I said, blood work won't lie. But understanding the cause of those things, can you supplement it? Yes. Can you offset it with supplements or prescriptions or whatever? Yes, you can. But if you don't address why it's happening, serotonin is a big deal in the brain. Right. Serotonin is your mood management hormone.
Right.
And when serotonin is either suppressed or not absorbed, most of the time under a stressful situation, it's not that you don't have enough. You have enough serotonin. It's just not under a stressful situation. We don't absorb it. And that's going to not just affect your mood, it's going to actually put you on this roller coaster of anxiety and depression.
So are serotonin and testosterone connected?
Yeah, because your testosterone levels can be perfectly fine. But if your emotional stability is not there, then it doesn't matter. Sex is going to be a low priority. Sleep is going to be a low priority or a high priority, depending on whether it's anxiety or depression. So a lot of those things they all play off of each other.
Right.
Most of which are manageable and measurable.
Right.
So if you measure it, and we'll talk about some measurement tools, or some things you can do to boost.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There are natural ways to support healthy testosterone
without
levels.
a doubt.
Strength training and lifting.
Right. The body you're living in is not meant to drive a desk.
Right.
It's not meant to be sedentary. It is meant to be used. It's meant to be in nature. It's meant to lift heavier things. It's meant to go through ranges of motion. Joints that don't go through ranges of motion tend to decay. Right. So a body that is sedentary just begins to rot like a piece of wood. It's not being used. It just decays, breaks down.
So by doing more activity, it doesn't have to be going to the gym. It could be just doing things at home.
Yard work is a good idea.
Right.
Parking further from the door and walking more is a good idea.
And you have an app that you use where you're just using resistance to your own body weight, right?
Yeah, just body weight exercises, whether old school calisthenic type things.
Right. Yeah.
Push-ups, pull-ups, squatting, movement exercises, stretching. These are all things that are going to stimulate brain function, improve your serotonin uptake, reduce cardiovascular stress, stimulate immune function. Right. And that's just called normal restoration of function. No supplements needed, no gym membership, no fancy clothes, just move more.
Yeah, like start there and then see how you're doing.
And then
if
watch
you're still struggling,
change.
But if they don't, then it's like, okay, then let's look at the next layer.
Right.
Let's add some supplementation. Let's add some zinc, some boron maybe, some Tomcat.
Right. So mineralization is a huge deal. Actually, the Shilajit stuff, I actually looking more at that. It has become, it's a big seller, frankly. That's that's been flying off the shelf. That and
it's such a good
the Tomcat and Tribulus. Those are the three. Tribulus more for men and women.
But it's mostly for circulation.
Yes.
That's the key. Like Tribulus, we think of it as this sex booster, but it's really just about circulation.
They call it natural Viagra.
They do, yeah.
But it isn't. It just promotes normal circulatory function because under stress, the circulatory system is squeezed. It doesn't do the same job, and so blood's going to stay in your muscles. It's going to stay in your heart. It's in a fight or flight mode. Blood goes where it's necessary, not where you wish it was.
Right.
So
and there's some things that every day we should implement, and that is avoiding the endocrine disruptors. It's the same for men as it is for women.
Right.
So watching out for those seed oils, which are creating havoc in the inflammatory process. Plastics, phthalates.
All the things that promote estrogen production are bad for a dude.
Yes.
Soy.
Yes.
Fragrance.
Yes.
All the things that stimulate the production of estrogen. And certain foods do that.
They do, yes. But just talking about some basic environmental concerns or things that we're eating.
All those smelly things, the Glade plug-ins.
Whether it's in your car or in your home.
Dryer sheets. Fabric softener, all that trash.
Anything.
And it will wreck your endocrine system. And then you're like, well, gosh. Well, have you noticed that there's like this whole feminization of men? So part of this is, the promotion.
So many different directions.
I know. There's this thing.
Something else that's super simple, and I'm trying to keep this like flowing for us because I know that we were shooting for 20 minutes.
It's easy to get going
but
sideways.
Something else that's super easy to incorporate is deep sleep.
Right.
We also have supplementation for that if it's not an easy thing for you. The Symbiotica sleep is amazing.
Sure.
Valerian
But
root,
the big one is magnesium
kava,
for most people.
But magnesium for
you
most
don't need
people.
to override anything. You need to nourish the system. It doesn't need any real significant override. It just needs supported with basic nutrients.
It does, yeah.
Magnesium is a sleep enhancer. It's a brain food. It's a heart food. It is an anti-inflammatory. It is a muscle relaxant. And so if there's cramping or those Charlie horse feelings, that's the body's way of saying, hey, well, I'm missing some minerals. Usually magnesium is going to be a big help.
Morning sun is another big one to regulate circadian rhythms, which are
Pineal gland, all that.
Testosterone. This is totally off topic, but because you were talking about the magnesium, I just created an amazing guide because I didn't realize there are 9 different types of magnesium. And so we won't talk about it because I don't want to give it away. But if anybody wants that guide, I'm happy to share it. I wasn't quite ready yet. But it's amazing because there's 9 different kinds and they all have a different, they're all a helper in a different way to the body system. So it's pretty cool. So making sure that you're using the right magnesium for the symptoms that you're experiencing is essential. So yes, we just created a guide for that.
And the other thing that I didn't mention in the whole fight or flight physiology is memory, cognitive things. So if you're walking into a room thinking, why did I walk into this room?
Yes.
I know there was something in here I wanted, or you're trying to recall names or numbers. If your recall is slipping, again, it's a great barometer for how stressful is my world. It goes with chronic pain. It goes with inflammation. It goes with, digestive malfunction. If a bear was chasing you, you would not worry about digestion. Your brain would say, hey, I need that blood for other things. And so it's just important to understand here are the half a dozen or 8 or 10 different clues, memory being one of them, that says my stress load is higher than my body's ability to adapt to my stress.
Cortisol also tanks testosterone,
100%,
right?
yes. Cortisol, again, certain hormones override other hormones in a stress-filled world.
Right.
Cortisol is where belly fat's going to come from. High estrogen's where belly fat's going to come from. Man boobs are always high belly fat, high cortisol and high estrogen content.
Yeah.
So there are some things that you want to probably cut out of your life diet-wise, but just getting basic nutrients and minerals back into the system is what resets the system. And then it's not, again, testosterone might be low, but it's more probably that it's not available for absorption because of the load that's already on the system.
Right.
And that's why those other drugs can be so dangerous. If you're taking Viagra, for example, if your man parts aren't working,
And that
there's
happens.
a reason.
Yeah.
But there's a reason.
Yes.
And it's the body's way of saying this heart has so much stress on it that you're not able to perform that activity. Mm-hmm. That's the body's way of shutting it down. Like, bro, that's a hard no for you or a soft no for you. And so, but then they'll override the system. It's like putting a penny in the breaker box, right? Yeah. Yes, the lights come back on, but you also burn the house down because they're overloading the circuit. So you got to be super careful with those overload drugs because they are overriding the body's natural tendency to protect your heart.
So do they get tested before they're prescribed?
What do you mean?
Are they tested for cardiac function before they're prescribed?
No. No, if you went to your family doc and you said, hey, I'm having trouble in the bedroom, they would say, try this. There's one or two or three things.
Okay.
And again, not that that's bad, but those drugs were actually brought to the market for blood pressure. Viagra was a blood pressure pill. So they send out all these drugs. People sign up for drug testing, which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
And what happened was it wasn't a big deal for blood pressure. So they said, okay, send it back. And then all the guys were like, I think I'm keeping it. It seems to be helping me elsewhere. And then all the women were like, oh crap, he's keeping it. But it's a vasoconstrictor, vasodilator. That's the thing. And so, but that's when they said, okay, from a marketing standpoint, all right, you keep it, but we're going to market it differently. It's no longer a blood pressure issue.
That's so interesting. And I do think off-label.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of off-label.
Huge market for off-label use for most drugs.
And also, but the benefits sometimes are much greater than what they were originally designed for.
And it's a happy accident.
It's a happy accident.
Sure. And some of the things, and you've mentioned some of them in here. I was thinking about mental clarity and just recall and the dihexa. So some of the peptide things that you've tapped into and done the homework on are amazing for and peptides are things that the body produces anyway. Right. They're just usually short-lived. And then as we mature, they are even shorter-lived.
Shorter-lived and less of them.
And less produced, right.
So
to supplement with peptide therapy can be super helpful in that it's a substance that the body already makes. Yes, it's a synthetic version of that. But
it's a lab-created version, which creates a situation where it's consistent then in the body.
Yes, you want them from a compounding lab. You don't just get them in the health food store.
Exactly.
And you don't usually use them orally. They're usually going to be injected because the bloodstream says yes faster than the digestive system says yes.
But dihexa is an oral supplement.
Yes.
And I went through a 90-day cycle of that. And I think you did 90 days as well. And I couldn't believe the difference in
a sharper mind.
Yes. Because I was really starting to struggle with thinking of this word that was probably a very ordinary word. And it's like, I can't grasp it from anywhere. And I started taking that and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So I think I took that from November to January and it just was phenomenal. And the results and lasting, it's been lasting for me too.
We talked about Tomcat. There's a handful of other things just from a performance standpoint, whether it's for muscular growth and development, whether it is for function in the bedroom.
Ashwagandha for the adrenals.
Mood and mindset. And yes, adrenal support. Adrenals are the glands that produce the hormones that manage stress. So cortisol and epinephrine and norepinephrine. These are all things that are going to be heightened. And that's where you'll hear the concept of adrenal fatigue. It's not that they're fatigued, they're overdriven. And so there's too much cortisol in the bloodstream. It changes the way insulin is produced, and it changes the way that sugars are. You'll crave sugar. And then there's all this insulin flying around in your bloodstream and your adrenals.
So just
your
another part of metabolic dysfunction.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really all that it comes down to.
It's a train wreck, but it's not supposed to be a lifestyle. It's meant to get us out of danger, you know.
So BPC 157 injectables just came back on the market. The FDA reapproved those after a lot of legislation and lawyer work to get that back on the market.
Well, a lot of times what you've noticed, and we've all noticed this, things that are helpful don't stay on the market unless there's a fight. Yeah. Things that help people usually don't get to stick around long.
So BPC 157 is excellent for tissue repair of all kinds.
Reducing inflammation.
PDA is pentadecaarginate. That is the version 2.0. What we've seen with that is that it's as good, if not better, than BPC 157. Sometimes they can be used like maybe if somebody wanted to do a cycle of PDA, then do BPC, do both, alternate them in the morning and evening or something like that, and just see what works for you. Everybody is so different, and
but again,
everybody's going to respond
blood panels
different.
will tell you a lot about those things.
Especially the
when your
inflammatory
inflammatory markers are high. And cholesterol is going to be up. I forgot to mention that as well.
Yes.
When your stress load is up, your cholesterol load needs to go with it. The brain and the body both need additional cholesterol in a stressful situation, and it has a purpose. Now, if you have a stressful situation going in your world, or your nerve system's locked into fight or flight, and then you go to your traditional medical person, what they're going to see is an elevated form of cholesterol, and they're going to have a solution.
It's going to be a statin.
Right. They're going to want to knock the number down. They don't knock the stress down that produced it. They just want to knock the number down.
Or
and then
even
they've
talk about the
convinced
lifestyle
everybody.
that's created
No, they're not
that.
looking at cause and effect at all. Their goal will be, and again, this doesn't make them bad people. They're just doing what they're trained to do.
Right.
But the reality is if your cholesterol is floating around higher, it's higher for a reason. And that's called need. It needs to be higher. The brain needs it. The heart needs it. It does repair inside vessels. It is the foundational hormone for all, the foundation for all hormone manufacturing in the body. Every cell wall, if it wasn't for cholesterol, you'd slide down the drain like it holds us together.
Right.
So the reality is what we've been led to believe is pathological. Your cholesterol's high, your heart rate's high, your blood pressure is high. Well, these are all the perfect responses to a stress-filled life. And we've been led to believe they're pathological. So if we can knock them down with chemistry, we've been told that's a good idea. And I'm going to tell you it's a horrible idea. And it's why heart diseases kills more people and cancer kills more people, because we're not looking at the why, we're looking at the what.
Right, because it's not really changing anything in that person except for the numbers are better, right?
Yeah. And even then, when you knock the numbers down artificially, you sabotage the body's ability to respond artificially.
Right. So if they, as you're looking at things and finding solutions that are going to bring that cholesterol down naturally, restoring that metabolic function. It's amazing what we see, even just with the 21-day purification plan. When we first introduced that into the practice, we were doing before and after blood work.
Sure.
So they would have it done. They would do the 21 days worth of purification, simple purification, not anything complex.
Basically a liver cleanse.
Yep. And then they were coming back in because we know like 86% of United States population has some form of fatty liver disease.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah. And then they would immediately do the blood test, again, rerun that cholesterol and the sugar, and all of those numbers come back into range in 21 days, just from something so simple as changing your diet.
And all you're doing is reducing the stress.
Yeah.
It's a stress response. I cannot say that enough. It's a stress response, in that case, to the liver.
Right.
But when you de-stress and kind of think of your liver kind of like your furnace filter, it needs flushed out once in a while. And so that's all that does. But it reduces stress throughout the system. And then the system can begin to find its way home and reset.
Yeah.
So numbers go down, cholesterol goes down, A1C and sugar go down. So does your body weight goes down.
Right.
Your sleep pattern comes back, your libido comes back, your energy level comes back, your hair gets brighter, your coat gets shinier, whatever. But the reality is all you're doing is asking the body to come back to doing more normal things in a more normal way. It's not genius level things. It's just very, very simple. But you don't sell a ton of drugs with it, and that's why it's not going to be promoted. You're not going to see this on television. Nobody's going to say, what you need to do is get a better life. Find a job you like, hang out with people who love you, eat real food, and you're going to be fine.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Go.
We always hear about women doing Kegels, right?
Yes.
Pelvic floor exercises.
Right. Yes.
Do men have to do those too?
I don't know.
Are you supposed to?
I don't know.
Part of what I was reading about was for libido and performance that you guys are supposed to practice Kegel exercise. Can you do them right now?
Yeah, I'm doing them right now.
Are you, Graham? Graham's shaking his head. So yeah, it's supposed to be helpful for that.
Okay.
So,
well, I don't have a problem in that arena, so if I did, I'd do some
just
Kegels.
so you guys know, this Terry is perfectly good. He's like.
But the reality is, it's only going to work to your advantage if you're doing the things. You can't expect the right outcomes if you don't do the right things.
But also regular prayer, breathing, and connection to purpose, and that is part of true masculine grounding, don't you think? Connecting to purpose, whatever that looks like, just as being aligned with it.
I think staying connected to God is how you keep a perspective that lets you figure out where's your purpose.
Right.
You know, if you're just asking for guidance and direction and wisdom and discernment, that's a great way to lower stress, by the way, is just having a great conversation with the one who made you. And it's how you put yourself on the sidelines. Right. I always imagine it like sometimes I'm the driver, right? I want to drive this bus. I'm going to do what I want to do. And every time that happens, I crash it or hit the ditch.
Oh my gosh. But then when we surrender.
Right. And if I move God out of the passenger seat into the driver's seat, suddenly I have, I can take a breath and things get back to normal.
Yeah, but also life becomes a lot easier. I mean, because I feel like we constantly try to do it the way we want to do it, and he's already got it all figured out.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just need to be aware of.
But that's not a high priority for culture. The culture doesn't facilitate a relationship with God. If the culture facilitates fear and uncertainty and strife and anxiety. If you have a television, the best thing you can do to lower your stress levels, turn off your TV and your computer.
Yeah.
No internet, no TV, 1 week. I dare you. Dare you. You'll hear your house make noises again. You'll have conversations with the people in your life. You will get things done.
And it's also free.
Yes.
To do that.
And it's amazing to me how many times people say, well, I just don't have time. I'm too busy. Well, guess what? Busy is not a badge of honor. Busy is a sign that you're probably need to put yourself on the sidelines for a minute.
Yeah.
Before your health puts you on the sidelines.
Yes, because you will be forced.
That's the other, you can either do it voluntarily or you can go to the hospital and let them sideline you, with an IV or whatever.
Yeah. So they've done all these things, the simple things, pelvic floor exercises, grounding, relating to their purpose, getting adjusted, eating cleaner, taking out all the fat.
And I don't think everybody needs to get adjusted. To be clear, from a chiropractic standpoint, I don't think everybody needs adjusted. I do think everybody should be checked.
Yeah.
That's the key. Don't get adjusted. Get checked.
Right.
If you need adjusted, that's a neat conversation to have with the person checking you. But the question is, what are we checking? So muscle tone and balance, postural tone and balance, joint function and mobility, and neurological assessment. You can measure those things. Why would you not measure them? If they're within normal range and you don't need adjusted, it's like going to the dentist. You know what? You don't have any cavities. Here's your new toothbrush. See you in 6 months.
Right.
Good for you. Right. But if you do need adjusted, if your nerve system is locked into fight or flight, that is a chiropractic conversation. You're not going to have that conversation with your traditional medical doctor or your cardiovascular specialist or your OBGYN. Those are not people trained in that arena. And somehow we've been led to believe that because it's so low tech, chiropractic isn't a necessary thing. Chiropractic is the only group of people on the planet that are going to help you focus on unlocking your nerve system from a spinal perspective.
Yeah.
You can't get that anywhere else.
Right.
You can get herbs and vitamins a million places. You can get your heart medicine from the heart people. But the only way you're going to get your spine checked and aligned properly for good neurological function is in a chiropractic setting.
Right.
Period.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, it's been the foundation for our own personal health and our family's health since you became a chiropractor.
And so when the motor's running right, when your nerve system's happy, that's when you focus on fuel. Think of it just like a car.
Right.
If the car's not running well, you're putting good fuel in it, you're not getting the benefits of good fuel anyway. So you've got this list. This is our men's health. You can hold that up. Actually, we'll put that in the show notes. So those are some really basic things that we have focused on for Men's Health Month. And all they do is support the system. There's no overrides in there. That's just nutrition that helps the body run like a body is supposed to run.
Yeah.
Most of us are so nutrient poor that we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. We live on Wendy's or Pizza Hut or whatever, and then we wonder why we feel like an inflamed nightmare.
Right. I mean, that's a conversation for another day. But, if we're not doing the things like making good choices for our food, you can support it somewhat with the nutrients, but they don't work nearly as well with a body that's just struggling to find, neutral.
Well, they call them supplements for a reason. It's a supplemental thing. It's not the whole thing.
Right,
it's a supplemental thing, and that means good food has to go in and around it.
And then if oral supplements are not getting the desired result and people are still struggling, that's when they can look at the regenerative therapies. There's GHKC, which is a copper peptide for hair growth and skin regeneration, and thymosin beta 4, which is TB500 for joint and muscle recovery. There's also just a huge array of the growth hormone injections too.
Sure.
That are really helpful as we age, because that definitely declines. Tirzepatide for visceral fat loss, energy, and insulin support. And there's a new peptide that has just come out on the market called LL37. We use thymosin A for immune support. But LL37 is for chronic infections, long COVID, and just that extra immune support boost. Because when you think about it, with the amount of infection that's been going around, a lot of people are dealing with that infection that's just chronically holding on.
Yes.
And so that could also be related to how their libido is, or how
every disease on the planet. We've talked about this multiple times.
Yeah.
Every disease, whether it's long COVID or whether it's cancer or whether it is the common cold, everything is either toxicity or deficiency.
Correct.
And so all you got to do is remove what's toxic and create what is sufficient.
Right.
That means nutrients, vitamins, minerals, whole foods. And then if you're seeing the things that are, if you're restoring order in the court and you still need the boost, that's where peptides and maybe some prescription drugs. I'm not saying prescriptions are out of the order.
Absolutely not.
In fact, most of these things will be prescriptions. So we don't do that. We have medical providers that we connect to that do that.
Yes.
And so regenerative therapies can be super helpful, and they can accelerate the process, frankly.
Yes, they will turn it around faster than an oral supplement will.
Oh, no doubt about it.
It just is going into
most people's digestion is still in fight or flight.
Exactly.
So your digestive system doesn't usually promote that as quickly as injectables.
Right.
Things that go into the bloodstream trigger things very, very quickly by comparison.
Exactly. And
they have a place, no doubt about it.
And sometimes even with the peptides, they don't have to be for just for when something's wrong.
Right.
They can be for performance and preservation tools too.
Sure.
They can be used proactively for
so
people
men's
that
health.
are looking for that.
Let's put a lid on this. What do we want people to know?
Virility is vitality.
Okay.
It's not just sexuality. I think sometimes people, men think that they have to be virile, and that's not just a sexual thing. That's just a vitality thing.
I believe you.
Do you?
Sure.
I mean, you live in that man body, so
yeah.
How do you relate to that?
Well, like I said, we get you guys have your thing, and we have our thing, but we usually, like I said, we don't enjoy needing help, and we certainly don't enjoy asking for help. And so the fact that most guys are sick and they're tired and they're stuck in that fight or flight pattern, and then they drag it to the house.
Yeah.
And the kids know it, and the spouse knows it, and it's hard. It's hard being a dude.
Right.
And then you're told you can't be a dude. You can't, manliness is a problem.
Part of it is you guys are fixers. And so not only are you trying to fix everybody else's stuff at home, you're trying to fix stuff at work, you're trying to, solve problems all day long.
Yeah.
And that's a big burden to bear.
Right. And that's a lot of that's cultural. I mean, we've been led to believe certain things that aren't necessarily beneficial for human health.
Yeah.
So we're just a work in progress, I suppose.
So men's health isn't just about surviving longer, but living stronger.
Yeah, I don't want to be 110 years old living in a wheelchair with a drool bucket. You know what I mean?
Yes, 100%.
I would rather, what's the phrase that, you don't want to like have them dump you into your grave. You want to come sliding in sideways and
I haven't heard that one.
Whooping and hollering.
And just a reminder that toxin-free living isn't just for women, that men really do need to look at the products that they're using, because it has a huge impact
shampoo
on the estrogen that you're
here's
putting into your
another weird
body.
thing, clothing. Like most of the clothing people wear, the stretchy fabric is not healthful.
Yeah.
It is polyester, and it is it blocks energy in lots of different ways. It is not
when we were talking about frequency,
right?
Linen and cotton and wool, those are the
I have
top
underneath
3.
this shirt
Cotton,
pure cotton t-shirt.
But looking at shaving cream, cologne, sunscreen, deodorant, those are the silent hormone disruptors to take a look at. But you use Crunchy. That's your favorite moisturizer.
I stay hydrated.
Yes.
Moisturized, if you will. I think I look pretty good for 78 years old.
You do. Yeah, it's amazing. He's not really 78, you guys. But Also, the ending part of this about the faith, brotherhood, and regeneration. I mean, having men be able to talk to other men for support and accountability if that's necessary. I think that's a big part of it.
And we could talk for days about some of this stuff.
Oh, we really could.
But to simplify it, real food, a good whole food multivitamin, probably some magnesium, definitely some omega-3, fish oil, fatty acids, and maybe a probiotic just for gut health and immune support and some of that. If everybody would just do those things, this is a great list. I love this list.
This is a great list for men.
And we'll put it up.
I think that what you're talking about is too general. I think if men are,
but if everybody
did
those 4 or 5 things, hospitals would have way less work to do.
Yeah.
And these are things that would support vitality. These are things that support heart health.
Yes.
These are things that support prostate health. These are things that support immune function.
Exactly.
Right? And so are they smart? 100% yes, they're smart.
Yeah.
But is everybody going to open 6 bottles of stuff a day? I don't know.
Oh, no. I think that they could just pick 2 or 3 off of here and they would be good to go. The mineral shilajit, that is something that goes in water. Right. So that's an easy thing. And then just like look at the list and say, this is where I feel like I need the most support.
Yeah.
I think people know, like if
wish people knew.
If people weren't sleeping well, it's like, I get a sleep problem. So let's look at the magnesium or maybe some B's.
Yeah. But it might also be a matter of cutting out Doritos and grape juice at the end of the day.
That really is the easiest way to do that.
Yeah.
Who needs supplements if you can just eat well?
If all you do is just take out the trash.
Mm-hmm. Take out the trash.
And then, create some new support systems. I don't know. It's not that hard.
Thanks for taking care of your man body for me. I appreciate it.
It's going to expire someday, but I want it to work well while I'm here. Nobody's getting out of this alive.
Okay, don't go down that hole. Cut.
So if you like what you're doing, what should they do?
Like, subscribe, and share.
Perfect. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Let's go.
Let's go. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Hello.